if a mother and father's 5 children vanished forever? From the same house, on the same night, and when the fire was finally put out by morning, not even a single trace of them was found. No bones, no teeth, no final clue. Would you call it just an accident? Or a carefully planned conspiracy? Welcome to Myth Xray. Today's story is not just a tragedy, it is a mystery that has shocked, disturbed, and haunted people for decades. This is the story of the Sodder family. The year was 1945, the place was West Virginia, USA, and the night was Christmas Eve. The house was filled with joy. There were lights, there was laughter, the children were playing with their new toys. George Sodder, his wife Jenny, and their 10 children were spending a beautiful family evening together. But they had no idea that this very night would change their lives forever. George Sodder was a hard-working Italian immigrant. He had left Italy and come to America, and one of the main reasons for that was simple. He openly spoke out against the Italian dictator Benito Mussolini. He was a fearless man. He never knew how to hide his opinions. After coming to America, he started a trucking business, worked hard, built his own home, and gave his family a better life. His wife, Jenny Sodder, was a strong, responsible, and loving mother to her. Her children were her entire world. December 24, 1945. Christmas Eve, everything seemed completely normal. As the night grew deeper one by one, the children went to their rooms to sleep. And then, around 1 a.m., everything changed. Jenny suddenly woke up. She smelled smoke. She got up, and in the very next moment, she saw that the house was on fire within moments. The home that had been full of happiness turned into a scene of terror and destruction. George and Jenny immediately tried to save their children. They managed to get 4 of their children out of the house, but 5 children, who were sleeping upstairs, remained trapped inside. And this is where the most heartbreaking part of the story begins. George ran desperately, almost mad with panic, trying to save his children. He looked for the ladder that was always kept against the house so he could reach the 2nd floor. But the ladder was gone. He instantly tried to think of another way. He wanted to use one of his trucks to climb up to the window. But when he tried to start the truck, it would not start. He ran to the 2nd truck, and unbelievably, that one would not work either. Just imagine that. A father standing in front of his burning home with no way left to reach his children. People tried to call the fire department immediately, but help did not come in time. And when contact was finally made, it was already far too late. The fire brigade arrived hours later. By morning, the house had been reduced almost completely to ashes. Authorities said the 5 children upstairs had died in the fire. And just like that, the case was nearly closed. But that is where the real questions begin. If those 5 children truly burned to death in the fire, then where were their bones? Where were their teeth? Why were no remains found at all? Normally, even after an intense fire, some traces of the human body remain, especially bones and teeth. But here, there was nothing, and that was the moment when a terrifying suspicion began to grow in the Sodder family's hearts. Did their children really die in the fire, or were they taken somewhere else? The Sodder family refused to accept the official report. Authorities claimed the fire was caused by an electrical short circuit, but George Sodder said he had recently had the home's wiring inspected and upgraded. To him, the short circuit explanation was very hard to believe. Then, one by one, strange details began to surface. First of all, the house's phone line had been cut, and later it became clear that the line had not broken on its own. Someone had deliberately cut it. This became even more suspicious because Jenny remembered that around 12:30 a.m., shortly before the fire, a strange phone call had come into the house. On the other end was a woman laughing loudly. Jenny assumed it was a wrong number and hung up. Now, think about that for a second. If the phone was working at 12:30 a.m., but by around 1 a.m. the line had been cut, what does that suggest? It means before the fire started, someone came from outside and cut the phone line. And that still was not all. Jenny also remembered that just minutes before the fire, she heard the sound of something hitting the roof. Then there was the missing ladder. which was later found in a field some distance away from the house, and those 2 trucks, which had been working perfectly fine the day before. But at the exact moment of the disaster, both failed. All of it was so strange that calling it mere coincidence felt impossible. George Sodder became convinced that his children had not died in the fire. Instead, they had been kidnapped. But the question was, if that was true, who did it? And why? The story took an even darker turn when an older incident was remembered sometime before the tragedy. An insurance salesman had come to George, pressuring him to buy fire insurance for the house. When George refused, the man reportedly became angry and said, "One day you'll pay for this, and your house will go up in smoke." Was that just an empty threat, or a warning of what was to come? Another theory also began to emerge. Because George Sodder openly spoke out against Mussolini, some people suspected that he may have made enemies in certain Italian circles, or even among the mafia. Was this an act of revenge? Were his children taken because of him? After the incident, several people claimed they had seen the missing Sodder children in different places. One woman said she had seen the children in a hotel with a strange couple. Someone else claimed they had been driven away in a car. None of these sightings could ever be fully proven, but they made one thing clear. This case was not as simple as it first appeared to be. Then came another shocking twist. Later information made the suspicion even stronger that the fire was not accidental at all, but deliberately set. A bus driver claimed he saw some people throwing a fireball-like object toward the house. A few months later, after the snow melted, a round rubber-like object was found near the home. Some people described it as resembling a pineapple bomb or incendiary device. Suddenly, Jenny remembered that sound again. The sound she had heard on the roof just before the fire began. Had something really been thrown onto the house? Was the fire only a cover? And was the real goal to make the children disappear? George and Jenny never gave up. They spent the rest of their lives searching for answers to this mystery. They put up a huge billboard displaying pictures of their missing children and offering a reward. They followed every lead. They listened to every claim. They kept every hope alive. Then, almost 20 years later, in 1960, Jenny received a letter. Inside it was a photograph of a young man who looked strikingly similar to their son Louis Sodder. Along with it was a short message. "Louis Sodder, I love brother Frankie." That was all, but those few words were enough to bring a long-faded hope back to life. Was it really Louis? Was one of the Sodder children actually alive, or was it a cruel joke? The Sodder family hired a private detective, but once again, no final answer was ever found. Years passed, but the mystery remained a mystery. In 1969, George Sodder died. He left this world without ever learning the truth about his children. Jenny, however, did not lose hope. She held on until the very end. It is said that she spent much of the rest of her life wearing black clothes, as if her grief had never truly ended. Then in 1989, Jenny also passed away. And after that, the old billboard was finally taken down. The one that had spent years asking the world the same question, where did the Sodder children go? So, what was the truth? Did those 5 children really die in the fire? Or did someone carry out a terrifying plan and make them disappear forever? Was it an accident, a kidnapping, or a conspiracy whose truth never came fully into the light? The Sodder children case is still considered one of history's most chilling and most mysterious unsolved mysteries. And perhaps the scariest part of this story is this: it is possible that someone knew the truth, but that truth was never spoken. If you like mysterious, dark, and unsolved stories like this, then make sure to like the video, share it, and tell us in the comments, what do you think really happened to the Sodder children? This is Myth Xray, where we tear away the curtain, hiding the truth. See you in the next suckin' video.